everybody. I probably should have figured out if I was supposed to play that intro video at 10 o'clock exactly, or at 9:30, or at 9:59 at the 30-second mark. So I just played that there at 9:59 30-second mark. So maybe it's supposed to go at 10. I don't know how those intros work, but this is I just appreciate everyone being here, and of course the second camera that I figured out how to set up decided to shut off right before the live. So let's go ahead and try to share that again here. Cool. Hey, so thanks for being here. I'm going to try to make this really efficient and effective for you if you're looking at getting better behind the drums and just coming up with better fills, more creative fills, and maybe just thinking about fills a little bit differently. But thanks for showing up. And as always, I appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. And so with that said, I think that we figured out the cameras here last time, the live. We had the really small screen. The audio sounded good, but the video, I didn't figure out that it wasn't the full size, which now I feel like, with these two screens here, it's most of the screen. So everything's encapsulated there. So I wanted to just go over the 5 things we went over a couple weeks ago, just really briefly. And then I wanted to dive in. I like to do that here at A Tune Musician. We dive into things, and we're going to start talking about leaving space with your fills. And I'm just going to give you some different ideas and different things to think about. And I actually have Groove Scribe pulled up here, 14% battery. Go figure. Didn't charge this sucker before this live, but it's good. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to start. And so let's just, number one, we have 5 different things we talked about a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of the same thing here. We want to think about how many beats the fill is going to be within the song. So if it's a typical song and you're doing a verse, you may have like a beat you're doing, and then you may break away and do a half measure fill, which would be like, if we're counting 16th notes like that. And so that is one of the first things that you want to think about, because depending on where you're at, you don't want to be doing full measure fills the whole time, and you may not want to be doing quarter measure fills the whole time either, depending on the song. And so, maybe at the chorus, you go into the bridge, you do a whole measure fill or 2 measure worth of fill. So I think last time we talked about 2 measures and how that would sound, and different things that we could look at, and which leads me to number 2. You think about the sound that you're looking for in that fill. And I feel like last time we really used the example, and I'll play it right here, where it was like you're speaking in a way to the song. It's like you're starting off with the snare, which is a prominent, snappy drum, and that's just, you're like moving down in a sense note-wise. A lot of people don't like to think of the drums like that, but it is like a sing-songy type of thing. And so really, as I mentioned, wherever you're at in the song, whether it's a quarter, half measure, thinking about the sound, how do you want the song of your fill to go? If it's a quarter measure fill, maybe you just want booms, gats, booms, lakata. And then that's even where you start kind of thinking, do you just want to do boom, gats, booms? There's other things you could do within that quarter measure that you can think about. And one of those things being that I was going to talk about is leaving space. And last time, I think I talked more about half measure fills and quarter measure fills. I mean, obviously that one fill, that's a full measure fill. And so like, when you start thinking about these other fills, like the quarter measure fill, and leaving space, you could, okay, that's 4 notes there. If you're just counting 16th notes, boom, boom. Oh, sorry, I hit the mic here. So what if you just, that 4-bar 16th notes, the first one, you just didn't play it? Or you play the first one, omit the second one, and then play the third and fourth one. I mean, you hear that pattern a lot. And all it is just the 4-bar 16th with the second one missing. I mean, like, think about Iron Maiden. So that's another way. I mean, you could do that, and I just did it on the snare drum there. But as I mentioned, the sing-songy approach. How do you want that to sound? If we were to do that, ba-ba-ka, you know, do you want to go boom, ba-ka, or and then something else that, oh man, back in with the selected different, yeah, my camera, sorry, I'm getting a notification here. And so that camera went out. That's cool. Anyways, we'll just do, I guess, with this one camera. So really, thinking about the quarter measure fill, thinking about where you can do, you know, as I mentioned, a ba-ka-ka. Another one is da-ka-da. And that all that is we're just doing the first 3 notes of the 4-barred 16th note and then omitting that last one. So, and as I did there, you know, I would do different stickings. I recommend messing around with different stickings with those fills. I mean, you know, it's like you could do right, left, right, or left, right, left, but you could also do left, left, right, 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 left. And that's where we kind of start delving in more of the double stickings, the doubles, the inverted paradiddles. And so with that quarter measure fill, I mean, if we just look at that right now, already we've talked about 3 different instances or 3 different examples we could use. And that is, you know, the 4-bar 16th, first, basically 3 bars of the 4-bar 16th with the second note missing. And then the last one we talked about was, you know, the first 3 with the last one omitted. We also talked about the first one missing. But then there's also, you know, take the first and the third one out. And then take the second and the fourth one out. And at that point, it just becomes an 8th note. And so what's cool about that is you're going, okay, I already know all that stuff. I know the patterns, like this stuff. Why, you know, well, where's the good stuff? Like, where do we start getting into coming up with more creative things? And it's in those instances where you look at the fill where it's a quarter measure and you're just playing the second and fourth note. So if you take that, you know, it's like. We take that one, da-ka-da-ka, da-da. What if on that fill, we could do that just on the snare? We could do that just going. That's cool, and we could do it on the toms and whatever, but what if we were able to do the hi-hat catches and the snare with that? Or even catches with the snare and hi-hat and the snare and the crash. So just thinking about it in different ways like that. And we don't have to do it the whole thing. So looking at it in different ways like that. And so once we take away whatever we're playing, you know, in terms of the fill, we're leaving the space. You know, as drummers, we like to worry about having notes everywhere. I got to play everything. I got the whole song. I got to. Like, we don't got to do that all the time. And so what this also offers us is, sorry, I feel like I'm screaming at you. I had to get the levels before this live, and I feel like they may be a little bit quieter in terms of the drums. The vocals, I feel like we're a little bit louder, and I was just screaming there. But we want to think about leaving space. So, you know, as drummers, we like to just play everything, play as fast as we can. And what this does, this whole thing of it offers us a chance just to be able to take a break. We worry so much about, you know, needing to play so much everywhere. And so, as I did there, actually, this leads perfectly into the next segment, and I had to write it down. Different mixed subdivisions, essentially. So we talked about that, and you hear that everywhere. You hear it in the songs where they're like, "Man, this song is an absolute." My mics are moving. This song is an absolute, like Jim. It's a, you know, it's just a really good banger of a song. It may be, you know, some type of I can't even think of the word, but it's you hear the drums where it's like dicka dicka ba ba ba, you know, it's like these big endings, and that's mixed subdivisions. You know, you look at that, and you got the 16th notes at dicka dicka, and then like the followed by the triplets. So dicka dicka dicka. So it's like you're going from 16th notes to, you know, the 8th note triplets. Yeah. So in that instance, you know, you could leave space for the 8th note stuff. So it's like if you just had a quarter measure fill triplet, what if you just omitted the first note, or even both, the second, you know, the first and second note? So it's like all that would leave is, so, you know, triplet, lit. So that's a full one. Let's take out the first one. Take out the first two. And really, that's all. When you think about, you hear these beats in songs, especially from like the early thousands or even the 90s, and you know, you'll hear it in Red Hot Chili Peppers songs. He'll have those the notes in between the hi hat, not necessarily those bounces. Those are called drag. Those rudiments are called drag rudiments, and so. But you hear the alternating between the hi hat and the snare, and I mean, if you think about that as well, that's just, you're just kind of breaking off from those, you know, 16th notes or however you're counting the song. So it's just looking at it in a way where you look at all the notes and you get a fill down. Say you're getting really comfortable with a fill, start looking at where you could take away notes. And if it's challenging, that's a good thing, because that's where you want to spend time. And it's super frustrating, but it's so rewarding when you see that through and you can see those fills and hear those live when you're playing with anybody. And really, that I talked about the different stickings and everything. I talked about breaking into smaller pieces, you know, and that's something that you want to think about with all of those fills. Is if you have, you know, 8 notes, how does the sticking look on that? You know, is it just going to be right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left the whole time, or are you're gonna sprinkle in a kick, you know, changing the sticking up, kick, left, left, right, kick, left, right, left. You know, I'm just making up these stickings here, but these are the things that I do to be able to go, hey, how can I really make this sticking like weird? Like, write it down even, and that's something you can actually do right here. And dude, I wish this camera was working, but I'll show you here. If you could do it in Groove Scribe, it's really going to help you out. And that's one of those things where it's like, So taking that decca, 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 like changing the sticking up, all those notes in this are accented. If this camera didn't shut off like it did a little bit ago, I'd be able to show you there. But where can you change that sticking up? What can you accent? What can you make ghost notes? That's something we often overlook. And it's one of those things that's worth it to practice everything with ghost notes, you know, whether it's single stroke rolls, double stroke rolls, you know, just even that alternating, you know, the thing I was talking about with a lot of bands that you don't just have to alternate, you know, you can start looking at playing more with the snare drum and trying to do ghost notes there. But so thinking about those stickings is just going to be really beneficial for you as a drummer. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about was basically like when you're playing with bands, because I think something we overlook as drummers is we get so isolated practicing and sitting behind our drums or behind the practice pad and just trying to play as much as we can and practice as much as we can as the patterns and everything, but really jamming with other musicians, whether that's actually live with them or if you have jam tracks, which you can find. Just go to YouTube, and I've done several videos of this. Go to YouTube or Spotify and search drumless backing tracks, and you can find so many different backing tracks that are different genres, and they have clicks. They have ones with clicks. They have ones without clicks, and it's all over the place. So you can find anything from, you know, 60 beats per minute to 220 beats per minute. So there's a ton of stuff. Excuse me. And so one of the things that we have to think about too is when you're jamming with someone, especially other musicians who are trying to grow and push past their plateaus and continue to get better, one of the things that you can do is like playing with a guitarist or you know, someone who plays piano. When you're thinking about doing a fill, look at it in the eyes of like what, you know, see what they're doing. What is their part doing? And like figure out the rhythm of their part. And even like, as I mentioned, the notes. And, you know, whether it be you're following a similar pattern to the way that they're playing their notes with, you know, your snare drum and your toms, you know, because when you think about it, it is, we do have that option of going from a higher to lower with the snare, tom one, tom two, kick drum. But if you look at Led Zeppelin, you know, John Bonham. Jimmy was behind the drums. John Bonham, one of the things that he did really well, and especially for that time period, it's why he's such a phenomenal drummer. He was a phenomenal drummer. Was the music that he played? He would often match up the rhythm with his kick drum against what Jimmy was playing on the guitar, and you can hear that, you know, evident in the Immigrant song. Following that syncopation of the guitar, you know, and not many bands were not really any bands were doing that at the time. I mean, you think about, you know, Rolling Stones and I forget, I'd seen a comparison, but the bands were not doing that like, you know, John Bonham was doing. And so that's really a good way to take inspiration from these other drummers. Look at another drummers that are, you know, there's so many drummers out there that are doing phenomenal things and are really good, and looking at those drummers that are better than you and going, man, they're really, really good. And like, I really enjoy what they're doing, and taking a note, you know, from their, you know, book of fills or, you know, the way that they go about playing. But I'm trying to, one of the things I can think of off the top of my head is when I was playing with my brother, he played bass. He plays, you know, guitar, but we were playing bass. He was playing bass and I was playing drums in the band that we were in, and he did something, and the rhythm that I did, I just followed after what he was doing, and it was just like he went down. It was a breakdown in the song, and he was like the notes that he did were like boom, 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 boom. And so what I did was just you know, just do the crashes along with that. But in that instance, that was mixed subdivisions too, because we were going. You know, we were doing 16th notes in the context of that part of the song. But these are just really good things to think about. in terms of creating fills. And what time are we at here? 20 minutes. Okay, I'm probably going to end this at 30 minutes just because I want this to, not be too long for people. And also so you can go back and just digest it. But some other ways, I'm trying to think of just fills is I mentioned, okay, where can you change the sticking? If we take that right, left, we take the, decka, 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 decka. So many ways to do that. One. Getting comfortable, just leading with that weaker hand. It's really going to be beneficial opening up about with the open-handed drumming. I talked about that in the last video too. And then even paradiddles, regular paradiddles, moving around the drums with those. Inverted paradiddles, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left is one of them. So just like that right, left, left, right, left allowed my hands to open up and for my right hand to be able to come to the floor tom and then come back to an open-handed playing. And so like just practicing those different stickings, another inverted paradiddle is right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left. And what I like to do with those doubles is I'll play them as ghost notes. So we look at the paradiddle, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Those last two, left, left, right, right, or right, left, the right, right, and left, left, play as ghost notes. Any of the doubles that you can, try to play as ghost notes, move the accent around. But then even, we look at that fill, ducka, 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 ducka. I do the open hi-hat stuff a lot. I like to do that, and I feel like it adds a little bit of zestiness to the fill. It's just being able to do it as much as you can. Do it to where it's just like, whoa, this is really weird. I don't know what I'm doing. So just really flowing and really it's gonna be ugly, and still sometimes I'll be practicing some stuff and I'm like, man, what am I doing? Did I just start drumming? What's going on? And it's just really getting comfortable with that odd sticking, whether it's left, right, left, right, or leading the paradiddles with your left hand or anything really. Delve into using your weaker hand with drums because it's gonna benefit you in the long run. But start just getting sloppy, getting silly with it. Move around the drums, with that different sticking. Started the beat off there with a crash and a snare. How can you start the beat off? You don't always got to go into it with the hi-hat, with the kick drum. I feel like I'm jumping between subjects, but I'm just trying to talk about creativity as a whole here, and all this has to do with creating fills. But getting sloppy, getting a little bit silly, figuring out what sounds weird, what doesn't feel good when I play. That's where I should spend time. I need to spend time practicing what is really uncomfortable, what I would call others, my weakness in drumming. How can I spend time there? How can I iron that out? And, something too about going back to leaving space, just because we have the decka, 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 doesn't mean we have to play those 2 beats worth of fills the whole time. We could do the mixed subdivisions. But then really delving into where you can leave out notes and where you can put notes. And that was the reason that I was, going to have GrooveScribe up here, because you can do those things in GrooveScribe. And I guess I'll just share it up here if you can see that. This is Mike Johnston's app. It's free. But this is a great app, and you can come in here. You can come into this app and just be able to figure out where you want notes, where you don't want notes, if you want mixed subdivisions, whether you want 16th notes, 32nd notes, 8th note triplets, 16th note triplets, and mixed subdivisions. But then where do you want your sticking at? Do you want to kick there instead? And that's where you get into linear drumming, which I had done a few videos over. But I'm just now seeing, thanks, man. Mark said sick beats and said, you're a fantastic drummer. I'm going to heart y'all's stars there. Thanks. So, or I think I favorited it. I don't know. I'm on this app and it's streaming to YouTube. So these are just different things that you can do with your drumming. And if you look at, I just did a lot. I talked about mixed subdivisions a little bit there, but if we even include that, and do the decka, 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 that's a mixed subdivision. We're going from 16th notes to 32nd triplets, I believe. It just depends on how you're counting the song, but mixed subdivisions is all I'm getting at here. So when we do that, think about where you can pull the notes out from that. If you're doing, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then followed by 6 notes, that's 10 notes total. What can you do with that, dude? There's so much you could do with that. It's like a combination game. And then adding the kick drum in there. That's something that's really fun too, just because it's like you don't expect it. And you hear it a lot in songs where drummers will do stuff like. Like really just getting comfortable with everything. Like where, just spend time where it feels uncomfortable. And that's really where you're going to find the most success. And doing all these things, I'll just briefly kind of mention them here again. Thinking about how many beats, what's the fill look like? Is it, as we just mentioned, that's a 2-bar fill. Decka, 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 decka. That's 8 notes. You could do decka, 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 decka. That's 10 notes because it's mixed subdivisions. You're doing that triplet there at the end. And then, how do you want the sound to be? What do you want the song to be of your fill? Do you want the fill to follow along with the guitarist, the bassist, the pianist, the vocalist even? What is the vocalist doing that you could be like, dude, I'm going to do something here. I've done that before where I'm like, dude, he does some really like cool, the way the hook does, he does the rhythm of the verse or whoever it is, whether it's been bands that I've been in or playing in church. And I'll go, oh, that's cool, dude. He's doing some cool rhythm there. I'm going to do a fill that kind of matches that, it accents what he's doing, and we kind of feed off each other as musicians there. So quarter measure, half measure, whole measure. What do you want the sound to be? Look at the other musicians. What are they doing? Open up that. Oh, hey, there's 5 years here. Thanks everybody for showing up. But yeah, what do you want that sound to look like? Look at other musicians. Open up your weak hand. Do open-handed drumming, which is essentially you're leading. This is crossover, which is typical. I'm a right-handed player, but I practice beats leading with my left hand all the time. I practice a ton of just exercises and even single strokes, all the paradiddles, the inverted paradiddles, and doubles, leading with my left hand. It's going to help open your drumming up. And then breaking that into smaller pieces. That is something that I feel like I definitely didn't go over as much in this video as I did the last one, but break it up if it is too hard for you. If you come up with a fill and it's really busy, and you don't always have to do anything busy. That's why in this video I'm talking about getting really busy with stuff and figuring out how creative you can get with it. And then at the exact end of the spectrum, how much can you take away? And really doing that too is going to save you energy, but it's also going to create a bigger sound. It's going to create kind of this presence within the song when you're able to, like those, like, you know, like, dude, those feel like, you know, those kind of fills, like, it allows you to be able to rest, but also, like, you're playing with other musicians, they look over at you and they're like, man, like, that was sick. And you're just like creating that by being absent. So, and that's actually something, dude, JP Bouvet, he talks about that stuff a lot. And he's a phenomenal drummer. So I would definitely recommend checking him out because he does talk about that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. I appreciate you all showing up. If you could share this video with everyone you know, especially intermediate drummers, beginner drummers, I feel like those would both benefit. I just put a video up yesterday, actually, at 9 a.m. It was like, can you crash a ride? And that video is specifically just answering a question. You can crash a ride, obviously, but beginner drummers ask the same questions a lot, whether they're emailing me, whether they post it in Quora, in Reddit, you know, in YouTube comments. So that was just a beginner video. I try to encapsulate both beginner drummers and then intermediate and more advanced with my stuff, with everything that we put up here. But I hope this was helpful for you. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so that way you're notified every single time that we upload a video here. And even with lives, I like doing this. I like that we have everything hooked up now. We got the mixer hooked up. This camera was hooked up, but it went to crap and decided to go out. So now we're just looking at the webcam here on the laptop. So thanks again, everybody, for showing up to this live. And until next time, stay tuned.